All right, 7 o'clock. So let's get started here. My name is Glenn, and I, along with my partner Claire, who many of you may know, own uh, the PhiBrows Microblading Academy here in Boca Raton, Florida, where I'm located. Okay, and Brent, who we're going to introduce to you today, is one of our students. He's one of our all-star students, and you're going to get to hear his story today. And this is what we call our Student Success Series, where we get a chance to interview a student who has been through our course, the PhiBrows course, and is experiencing success. And we get to learn more about their experience, sort of interview style. So before we go any further, would you all please type the number 1 into the chat just to make sure that we can hear you? If you can hear me, type the number 1. If you're having trouble hearing us or you're having trouble in any way, just press the reconnect button. I don't know, well, you might not be able to see it, what I'm trying to show you, but right over here, there's a reconnect button that you can press. And if you ever lose connection with us, or if we lose connection with you, we'll just jump right back on. And you could always press that reconnect button and we'll pick up where we left off and we'll be good. Okay. So, all right. So everybody can hear us. Very good.
Awesome.
So here we go. So tonight's call is going to go for, I don't know, we'll see how long it goes depending on the conversation, but maybe about 30 minutes or so, plus or minus. And we'll see if you guys have questions, go ahead and put your questions into the chat box. And Brent will, try to address your questions as we go at a certain point. We'll figure that out. So let me tell you about Brent. So Brent is out of Tampa. He's 47 years old, but he doesn't look 47 years old. No, I'm just kidding. Brent is actually 24 years old. He's a young buck. And I thought it would be very interesting to bring Brent on here because we've only featured females so far in these webinars. So Brent, prior to getting involved in microblading, was a bartender, correct?
Yes. Yep.
For quite a number of years. And you actually quit your job before you even took the course. You took the course when?
I took the course in February, and I quit my job 2 weeks prior. I put my 2 weeks notice in, and I basically told myself that I'm not going to let myself be bad at this. That's why I quit my job. So I knew that I had to be good at it because I didn't have any other option to be good or not. So That's why I decided to put my 2 weeks in before I took the class, just so I could jump right into it.
Yeah, you used the old burn the boats formula there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So now, Brent, just let me summarize this real quick. Brent, you took the course in February.
Yep.
You said February? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So now it is September. So here we are about 8-9 months later, and you now do about 6 to 8 microbladings per week, and you charge $600 for microblading, correct?
Yep. I average 6 to 8. Depending on touch-ups, sometimes it's 4 per week, sometimes it's 10 or 12. But I average around 6 to 8 full microblade appointments per week, and we do charge $600.
Okay. All right. So that's basically my introduction. Let's get into this interview because I want you to share with everybody your story. I asked Brent not to tell me all the parts of his story because I wanted to be able to hear it for the first time while we're doing this. So let's kind of wind the clock back a bit and tell me, how did you even find out about microblading?
So my fiance, she works at Flirt Wax Bar where I currently work right now. She's the manager there, and the owner of Flirt Wax Bar already had a pretty successful microblading business before I got started on. And the reason why she wanted to hire another microblade artist was because they were pretty much booked solid, and a lot of people were going elsewhere because they couldn't get them in time. So she wanted to hire another microblade artist, but she wanted to find somebody with an art background. I had no experience in beauty industry whatsoever. I never thought that I would be a part of the beauty industry whatsoever.
Right.
But I knew that I was unhappy where I was at. I wasn't being completely fulfilled in what I was doing. And when the owner of Flirt Wax Bar wanted to hire another microblade artist, she asked me if I was interested in learning. And I jumped, like I said, I jumped at the opportunity. I put my 2 weeks in, and she signed me up for the PhiBrows course in February, and the rest was history. I just went all in with it. And I was lucky enough to have people like my fiance and Rhea, the owner of Flirt, around me at that time to push me into it, because I'm so grateful now that I've got the opportunity, and it's basically changed my life completely.
Definitely. Before we go any further with your story, let's take a look at some pictures, yeah? Because I want everyone to see what your work looked like in the beginning when you just got started. And then we'll look at your work now, because Brent's a phenomenal artist. You're going to see he really has a great talent for this. But let's go over to your Instagram page real quick.
All right.
So let's check this out. So this is Blading by Brent, which, by the way, you might want to follow Brent and see what he's doing. So you'd find him here, Blading by Brent. And let's act, because this is your more recent work, but let's go all the way back, which would have been smart to do that before we jumped on here. Let's let's go all the way back. And I want to start with the first actual model that you worked on, because I think you had that on here, right?
Yep, the very first model that I worked on in the class is on there. It's my very first post.
Okay, this is it?
Yep. So
Tell us about this.
Yeah, that's the model that I had when I went to the course. I was lucky enough to get a 90-year-old woman for my first ever model, which is difficult. But it was.
She really was 90? Like you're not exaggerating.
She was 90 years old, not exaggerating. But it was awesome because her brows came out awesome. She hadn't had brows in over 15 years. So right away I was, gifted with that challenge. But lucky enough, I had, Claire right there, Yana, the assistant, and they walk you through every step of the way. This is basically, I filled in the strokes on this one. The initial stroke pattern was done by Yana, and then you go back in as a student when you're in the class. You go back in and you fill the strokes in, and the instructors are there every step of the way, making sure that you're comfortable and you're not doubling up on strokes, but you're filling them in precisely.
Right.
So it kind of gets you ready, and it's great that you get to work on live skin at the class, because that when I first started, before I took the class, I had 8 models lined up for me, ready to go when I was done with the class. So getting to work on live models before I went and did my models back home, it was awesome because I felt just a little bit more ready. So yeah, that was my very first time touching human skin.
Brent, let's talk about that for a second, because I had asked Brent before we did this webinar to give me 5 takeaways, 5 of his best suggestions from having been in the path a bit, for some of the folks that might be watching and might be following in the same path, that they could take away from this webinar. And the first he had mentioned was to start right away. So Brent, this is a perfect opportunity for you to talk about why you feel that that's important.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as you get an opportunity to do models after you take the class, jump right in, because the longer that you wait between taking the class and doing live models on actual skin, the more nervous you're going to be, the more tension you're going to build up, and you're going to basically psych yourself out more than you need to. Definitely don't do it if you're 100% not comfortable doing a live model, but be confident in yourself. And as long as they know, your models know that they're there for practice, that's that we stress that a lot with the models, that they were my practice. And I had 8 of them lined up. The day after I took the class is when I started my first model. In the first week, I did 8. Wow. And that was the best thing for me at the time, because it was right after the class, did it. And by the time I was done my 3rd or 4th model, the nerves and the nervousness was pretty much gone. So
how did you feel doing that first model? Because this is someone who was paying for the service, and you had just gotten through the class. You weren't yet even certified.
I was sweating profusely, and I'm not going to lie, I was very, very nervous the first time I did it. I could not really control it. I thought that the room temperature was up way higher than it actually was. The room temperature was at 69, so it was just me and my nerves. I was sweating really, really bad. Luckily, I wasn't shaking too bad, which is a good thing, but I was sweating really, really, really bad. Second model, it got a little bit better. My nerves were a little bit, calmed. Third one was getting even better. By the fourth one, the nerves were completely gone. My skills needed to catch up, of course, and everybody gets better every single person they do. So, but the nervousness was gone pretty much after the fourth. So if you're seriously nervous about it, I would say jump right in, and because after 3 or 4, your nerves will be completely gone, and you should be good.
And the longer you wait, it's like standing in front of cold water.
Yes,
and you don't want to go in. You don't want to go in. It gets harder and harder to get in.
Yep, you just build up that tension in your head, and even if a little tiny doubt is festering after you take the class, the longer you wait, the bigger that doubt is going to fester, and it's going to grow. So I would say as long as you know that you can do it, go ahead and jump right into a model. Obviously, get some good practice in. I had to jump in on my the next day after taking the class, but that entire night before, I was up all night practicing on the skin, making sure my stroke patterns were at least halfway decent. And so that's definitely number one is making sure that your latex skin, you're comfortable doing it on that first, but as soon as you can, jump right into it and start doing models.
So tell us about this girl right here.
She was my very first model, right when I got back, and she was really, really happy. I knew that it wasn't perfect by any means, and I look back now and I'm like, wow, the things that I could do now if I got the opportunity. But she was really, really happy. She still is.
And what would you say about this? Looking back at this work right here, what would you say about this? What would you have done differently?
The transition in the strokes, for people who haven't taken the class, the transition is right in the middle where you see the head strokes start to turn into the top strokes. It comes to a point which I don't like at all. I would do that completely different now, looking back. But back then, I was pretty happy with it. Now I would do a lot different, but what matters the most is the client was really, really happy. And even though you might know that you could do better, focus on your client's reaction, because I knew that I could have done better, of course, but seeing my client's reaction and seeing the happiness that she had, that's what, gets you going. So even if you're not completely comfortable and you don't think that you did your 100% best, look at your client's reaction and really feed off of that, because you know more than your client. So you're going to see mistakes that your client will never see. So as long as your client is happy, try to feed off of that, especially in the beginning.
And so how did you feel after, because you were sweating bullets when you were going into this
sweating bullets. Yep,
literally like sweating bullets.
Yeah.
And she was super happy. She was like elated when you came out. And so how did you feel when you were done?
It was a lot. It was like the biggest weight off my back, because it took me 3 hours to do. And that whole time I was really, really nervous. And to see her reaction was awesome. And she came back for her touch up and it healed great. Yeah. Good. I was really, really happy with it.
So let's click through a couple of pictures here, and you can tell us as we click through a couple of these, because all of this is early work.
Yeah, these are all my very first works, and the things that I would go back and do. This actually was my first alopecia client, which was she was one of my models. As one of my alopecia client was one of my models, which having those challenges right from the start was awesome, because what I was thinking, like, what do you do with no hair? Well, here you go. You have to jump in and do somebody with no hair. She wanted really, really thin because she was afraid, because she hadn't had brows in such a long time. So she didn't want anything scary. In her touch up, we actually doubled the size of the brows. So right there, they're really thin. I was actually really, really pleased with that work, though. I knew how emotional it was for her to not have her brows. So I took my time with each and every stroke and made sure that each one was exactly where it should be. And she was really, really happy with it. She cried, which having clients cry because they love their brows is the best feeling in the world.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Let's jump through here and advance a little bit in time.
Yep.
Where you had started to do a whole bunch of people and your work was improving.
Yep.
And I would imagine you were practicing during this time. Oh, wait, look, there's your practice.
Yep. Yeah, I was practicing a lot. I didn't necessarily know the exact way that these stroke patterns should be, but I was practicing what I did know. And, you know, I was working on things, and that's the great thing about the class and with Claire is you can send her as much as you'd like throughout the process. She will give you feedback on absolutely everything you send her. And so I would try new things. I would send it to her and she would say, no, that's not right. So then I would know, okay, don't do that. Then I would go back and do something else. She would say, that looks great. So I would know, all right, yeah, I can try that. So definitely practice is key. It's crucial.
You had mentioned to me one of your keys that you would share with everyone is never stop practicing. Why do you think that's so important?
Because when I first started, I was booked solid, and I've been booked solid since I started. And in the middle there, I got away from practicing, and I thought that because I was doing live models every day, I considered that my practice. Like I'm doing it every day. That's obviously practice. But then I started, you know, and there was a few weeks in there where I knew I could be doing better because I had been doing it for a few months. I knew I could be doing better work than what I was doing. So I went back to the latex and I started just doing simply one brow a night, just not even a full set, just one single brow per night before I went to sleep. So then you wake up, it's fresh in your mind. And that alone, just doing the one brow per night, it was like night and day. My work instantly started getting better. And once you practice one and you get it down, do it 5 or 6 times until you can't get it wrong. Don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong, and then move on to a different stroke pattern. Try something completely different than what you've been doing. I get a lot. I get a lot of inspiration from the forum. I'm always on the forum looking at different things, and I look at Bronco's Instagram to look at different people's practice skins. If you're trying to learn a new stroke pattern, don't look at work that's on a live model, but look at the practice skins that other masters and royal artists they do, because they post it all the time. Look at that and study it. Study those practice sheets that other more successful artists are doing, because they're obviously doing something right and they're practicing on latex skin. So what I would do is I would put it right next to my practice skins, and I would basically try to copy each and every stroke that they had did on their practice skin. And I would do it, and I would do it until I got it right, and it looked the exact same. I'm still doing that. That's definitely key. I do it, like I said, every night, just one brow. It definitely goes a long way.
You had mentioned to me another key is to always be a student. I guess this is what you're referring to. Always keep trying to learn.
Yeah, don't ever think that you've got it, because there's always stuff to learn, and never stop being a student. There's different ways to go about being a student. If you want to take more courses, that's awesome. If you want to take perfection training, if you want to try new things besides microblading, if you want to try phi contour, phi removal, but always be a student. Never just settle and be okay with what you're doing. Constantly try to get better. And my way of being a student, I went to the phi contour class, so that's another way to learn more things. Another way was, like I said, with the looking on the Instagram of different masters and stuff and practicing their work, learning from them. they don't have any idea who I am, but I learn a lot from them. So
Right.
I'd consider that definitely, definitely very, very important.
For someone who's watching this and they're thinking about doing this themselves, talk to them about plugging into the community after you go through the course, because that's a very important part. You even talked about that. I have that here in my notes, that you want to surround yourself with people who motivate you and demand of you that you raise your standard, and
Yep.
you talked about the community. Talk about that for a moment, and how that helps you. Like, in other words, what I'm trying to say for the person who's watching, it's not just the course, because there's lots of courses out there, but here you're
Yep.
talking about a community to plug
Yes.
into where
Yep.
the learning continues. Talk about that for a moment.
I'd say to start, your personal community. If you To draw inspiration from your personal community, I had a great surrounding around me with my fiance and Rhea, the owner of the shop that I work at. Number one, they were super supportive in everything. So I would say number one to get inspiration is to surround yourself with personal, personal motivation. And my dad always told me to immerse yourself with positive people, that
Mm-hmm.
motivate you and keep you going. And then after that, once the community, the PhiBrows community, once you're done with the course, jump right in. And I started sharing my work on the forum. And for anybody that doesn't know what the forum is basically like PhiBrow heaven. It's I mean, there's other artists too besides Phi artists, but it's mostly Phi artists. They share their work every single day, and there's constantly new things to look at. And I started sharing my work immediately. Even though I knew it wasn't as good as what was being, put on the forum, I started sharing it immediately to get feedback, to see what I was doing wrong and things like that. And sometimes it wasn't getting things that I was doing wrong. It was just kind of like, that's awesome. And that's the things you need. Just little comments like
Right.
that. That looks great. Little things like that keep you going. And that's
Yeah.
why the PhiBrow community, it's not just a school. You don't just go and take the class and then you go about your way. If you immerse yourself in the PhiBrow community, the feedback is always there, and you can constantly self-motivate by just looking at other artists and other PhiBrow artists' work,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the forum and other pages, Instagram too. The PhiBrows is definitely a community, definitely a community.
That's why we do these webinars. We
Yep.
do these webinars. We have a series of webinars that we do that are just for paid students, that are support training webinars. It's not necessarily PhiBrows that offers this. It's our particular academy.
Yep.
But it's the idea that, we want to help the students plug into a network, plug into the feedback, plug into the community. And yeah, that's awesome. So let's go back to your story here for a second, because I want to get back to your Instagram here, because you continued, you got better, and you've had a fully booked schedule since you literally got back. How did
Yeah.
that happen? I'm sure someone's watching this and they're like, how did he have a full schedule right when he got back? Can you just explain that, and what life is like as a microblading artist who's fully booked today? What is that like?
So when I first got back from the class, the shop that I work at already had a name for being one of the best in Tampa, with microblading. So when I started, a lot of people already had their faith in the shop, and so when people were trying to book for my models, the owner of the shop made sure that everybody knew that she would not hire and she wouldn't put her trust into somebody that, she didn't believe would be a good fit and be a great artist and
Mm-hmm.
contribute to her team. And she's really big about team building, and that having that right there automatically boosted. I know some people won't have that opportunity, but it was definitely great for me to be a part of something that was already big before I got started into it. And um, that's why I've stayed booked the whole time, because with those 8 models that I got, I did a pretty good job. So after I did those, she advertised the models that I did, and I just started booking up. instantly. I charged a little bit less in the beginning for my work because I was brand new at it.
How
But
much?
eventually, I first for the models I charged 150, and then after that I charged 450, and then now I
Mhm.
do $600 per microblade.
Mhm.
So if you need to in the beginning, charge a little bit less to make yourself feel comfortable, make your client feel more comfortable because you are new. That's completely understandable. But as soon as you
Mhm.
feel like you're worth more, raise your price. Don't be afraid to raise your price if you believe that you're worth that. Um,
Mhm.
I was really lucky to find the place that I did. Well, they found me actually, um, because I wouldn't be as good as an artist as I am right now if I hadn't had all those people to work on. Um, so it's
But
definitely been a
it's
blessing.
important to also mention is that there are opportunities like this that exist. I mean,
Yeah,
for someone like someone watching this might feel that, you know what, they want to go into their own business, or they
yep,
want to open their own studio, or they want to go their own way. Then there's other people who might want to work at a salon,
yep,
who does a lot of the advertising, handles a lot of the back end aspects of the business part of it, and feeds you the customers, allowing you to concentrate on just getting really good at
yes,
the art and focusing on the art.
yep,
And so there's benefits to both, and it depends what's the fit for you. And so you could find opportunities like Brent has discovered, or find yourself in a situation like that. If that's what you're looking for, you can look for
yep,
it.
yep. There's if you're near a big city, for sure there's going to be salons that are looking for artists. So
Mhm.
if you want to go the route that I did and work in a salon, the, I right now I wouldn't go any other way. Like it really takes the pressure off of me. All I get to do is go to work and microblade, which is amazing. I don't have to worry about overhead and everything like that. I just get to go to work and do what I love to do, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But if you
How
want to own
how
your
how
own
it?
business, if you
Mhm.
feel like you will be successful owning your own business, then jump into it for sure. The the owner of the shop that I work at, she started in a one room, like just a one room little spot, and she was just waxing. And she built her business
Mhm.
within 4.5 years to what it is now. And we're number one in Tampa for microblading, and we don't have any signs of stopping soon. We're going to keep going. And she
Mhm.
built that from the ground up. So never get discouraged and think that you can't open your own business either. Um,
Yeah.
the woman that I work for is a prime example of success. So
Brent, you had mentioned to me that one of the lessons that you learned from being from doing microblading for all this time, one of the things that you might have done a little bit differently in the beginning was not necessarily listening to some of the crazy requests that you got from customers, but instead leading the client, and knowing when to turn someone away when they're asking you for something that is either not doable, or their expectations don't necessarily match up with what might be the results. Could you talk a little bit about that?
yeah, I would. That's something that if I could go back and change about what I was doing in the beginning, I would go back 100% because in the beginning I was all about giving the customer exactly what they wanted, no matter what it was. I just wanted to give the customer exactly what they wanted. And if I
Mhm.
could go back, I would do it completely differently. I got some crazy requests in the beginning, and for example, shapes. If somebody wants a crazy shape, I would go ahead and do it in the beginning because I just wanted to give the client exactly what they wanted. There was a lady that had previous microblading, and it was still pretty dark, and I I microbladed it because I don't wanted to give the client exactly what they wanted. Now looking back, I would definitely lead the client more and trust in my own instincts and my own opinion on it. Now
Mhm.
I have no problem telling a client no. I always do it in a nice way. Never rude about it or anything, but I have no problem telling a client, no, I don't think that's going to look good. And if a client is very insistent and you want to stick by your guns, don't be afraid, because if you have to turn a couple clients away, which I have done, don't be afraid to do it. There's plenty of people that want microblading. There's plenty of people to microblade. So don't feel like you have to get as many clients as you possibly can. There's always going to be people out there. There's always going to be people that want microblading. So if you have to turn a couple people away in the beginning because you don't feel comfortable doing something that they want, just trust your own instincts for sure.
Brent, before I got on our webinar tonight, I was actually looking this up. I'm not sharing my screen anymore, but you can see here I was on the Census Bureau page looking at demographics here in the United States. And did you know that I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's more women in our country than men.
Oh, yeah.
And we have about 330 million people who live in our country. And it's expected to be about 400 plus million by something like 2035, something like this. So adult women is right now, today, there's 125 million adult women in the United States.
Wow.
So let's just take off, 65 years and plus, and from 18 and below. So maybe you're talking about, I don't know, maybe around 100 million.
Yep.
100 million potential prospects for How many of those women do you think want microblading once they see it on their girlfriend?
Oh yeah. All of them, especially if they're religious about filling their brows in every day. The time that it saves them it's incredible. So that's what sells a lot of people mostly every woman fills their brows in unless they have perfect brows. So that alone is the selling point right there, is you can wake up and have brows every single day. So there's so many people. There's never going to not be people to microblade.
So many. Yeah. That's such a good point that you were making just before about the fact that sometimes we approach things from like a scarcity mindset. Like we think like things are running out.
Yep.
Clients are running out. Opportunity is running out. Microblading, it's going to get saturated. There might not be enough opportunity. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Listen to those numbers, 100 million and growing, constantly growing. All the girls who are 15, 16, 17 in just a few years will be 18, 19, and 20.
Yep.
And it's just, and there's immigration, right? So there's constantly people are just, there's so many people who will want this service. And it's interesting because there's opportunities that come up during our lifetimes, and some of them are good and some of them are not so good. And then every once in a while something comes along and it's like crazy, exciting, amazing. This is one of those things. And so you've got the wind in the sails, so you don't have to approach this from a standpoint of like, oh my God, this person, they're asking for some crazy, or they have some crazy expectations. And I don't know, you have that gut feeling that it's not going to work out right. But let me just do it anyway because I don't want to lose this customer. You don't have to feel like that. You don't have to worry about that, because if you do a bad job, you're going to produce an angry customer, or upset customer, unsatisfied customer anyway. Yep. And it's not going to help you get to more business anyway. If you really know inside that it's not going to produce the results she's looking for, and it's not going to look like good work. So you can't advertise it anyway. And there's 100 million potential prospects for you out there. There's so many. And there's so many different ways to market yourself. But
it's an example of that would be, in the beginning, there was a lady who had extremely high low brows, which means one sitting really low, one sitting really high. And she wanted them symmetrical. She wanted them to be the same. The only way for me to do that was to shave off the bottom half of one of the brows and then put microblading on top to get them symmetrical.
Wow.
And in the beginning, I did it. Whatever the client wanted, I did it. And looking back, that was the biggest mistake that I've probably ran into while I'm microblading in my whole microblading career, was doing that. I always go back to that and think, I should not have done that. Now I have no problem telling clients, if your brows are high-low, extremely high-low, you have to embrace the asymmetry in them. you that's how they're naturally supposed to be. That's how your face sets. If it's a little bit high-low, of course, there's ways that you can make them symmetrical. But if it's significant like that, I would never do that now that I've done it for so long. So definitely in the beginning,
Right.
Trust your instinct. If you don't think it's going to look right, definitely know your own worth and know that you know what you're talking about. Always be confident in yourself, especially when you're talking to clients. If they feed off your confidence. So if you're confident in knowing that it's not going to look right, they should feel confident, trusting you in your opinion, because you're the professional. Okay. They're not the professional. So
yeah. Well, Brent, I want to just quickly, for anyone who's watching who might be interested in actually getting certified like you in microblading, they can always go to our website, which you have it right here. It's microbladingacademyusa.com. Mm-hmm. We're actually an official PhiBrows Phi Academy. We have this official academy here where we are in Boca Raton, but we teach classes all over the country. So if you're not necessarily in Florida and you don't come to our live class here in Florida like Brent did, we have classes all over the place, from California to totally like the corner of the country in Seattle, New York, Chicago, Texas, all over the place. And so you can go to the live event everywhere. And then and by the way, you can find those live events here under training courses. You just hover over live training courses. And if you click live training courses over here, you'll see this page right here, which will take you to all of our live events. And then you can actually sort the live events in a variety of different ways. We've got lots of different types of courses, including Spanish speaking courses like this one, for example, which is with Master Cynthia, who will be teaching the course completely in Spanish, if that's important to you. But also, if the price of the course, which is a couple $1,000s, if that's too steep for you or it's too difficult to travel somewhere, a good alternative is the online course. You can take this online course and you get everything that's included in the live course, which is you get the PhiBrows kit, you get the Craft Master application, which is the whole curriculum that you follow. You get the 6 months of ongoing training and support. You get access to all of our support training webinars, sort of like this, but more focused on education and training. And you get access to the community. A lot of the things that Brent was talking about for a substantially reduced price. The only thing that you don't get is the live course. But Brent, like we were talking about before the webinar began, it's a good way to sort of try it on for yourself. Yep. If you're not like 100% certain that this is definitely what you're going to do and you're not willing to burn the boats like Brent did, but you just want to kind of dipstick it, this is the least expensive way to do it. And you can try it on and see if you like it, then you could just simply pay the difference and live course.
Yep.
So, yeah. Brent, thanks. You're going to say something?
Yeah, the online course, for sure. If you're not 100% certain that it might be something that you want to do, definitely try the online course out, because one, it's a lot cheaper. So like we were talking about, it's a litmus test to whether you want to do it or not. It really, and you can take it and go at your own pace, to where it's in the live class, you're taught everything, which is great. You're taught everything at once. In the online course, you can take it one step at a time. If you only want to be taught level 1 first before you get taught level 2, then get taught level 1 with the online course, do it, master it before you move on to level 2. The great thing about the live course is that they teach you everything. Everything you need to know between head strokes, bottom strokes, top strokes, spines. So that's all taught to you at the live course. But if you feel like that's too much information for you to process at once, then the online course is a great way to take it one step at a time and really take your time with it. And you can definitely figure out if it's something that you want to do, for sure.
So Brent's top 5 recommendations for those of you who are just getting started. Again, just to summarize, start right away, right? Immediately when you get back, don't wait. Never stop practicing. Make sure you always continue to practice to improve your work. That's very important. Don't get lost doing procedures and think that that's your practice.
Yeah.
Always be a student, right? That's
Always
a good one.
Be a student.
Very important. Always look for other people's work or look for ways that you can grow. Surround yourself with people who motivate you.
Yes.
Stay plugged into the community.
Yep.
And lead the last but not least is to don't listen to crazy client requests and lead the client instead, and know when to turn clients away, and don't be afraid to turn clients away, because there's 100 million prospective customers waiting for you.
Yeah, there's so many people that need to be microbladed. There's plenty to go around. And to piggyback off of that, if you are in an area where there's a lot of microblading, so you think getting started, you have a step like behind everybody because they already have a business. There's so many people that need to be microbladed, and never worry about other people's success. Only worry about your own success. Never worry about competition. Never focus on that, because if you focus on that kind of stuff, you're going to get yourself down. Never focus on competition. Only focus on yourself and your own work and bettering yourself before you focus on anybody else.
Excellent. Good stuff. Brent, thank you so much for participating with us. Again, if you want to follow Brent, it's Blading by Brent. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay, so it's at Blading by Brent. I'll put it into the text, into the chat here. Hold on a second. At Blading by Brent on Instagram. And you can follow Brent there. And thanks so much. This was a lot of fun, and I hope the people who are listening got some good value out of it. We're going to post this on YouTube so people can catch the recording. But thanks a lot for participating with us, Brent. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. Did you want me to try to answer any of these questions that are on the
sure.
chat?
If you don't mind hanging around. I didn't want to keep you on all night, but
I'll answer a few for sure.
Okay, so Tracy was asking, I don't know if you see this, but she was saying that the webinar is helpful. Did you have a mentor on hand when you first started?
The owner of the shop, she's trained in microblading. She was in the room with me for my first models. So having her right next to me, she wasn't breathing down my neck or anything like that, but she was there just in case I had any questions or I was feeling uncomfortable about something. If you don't have that, trust yourself, believe in yourself. But it was nice having somebody there right next to me while I was doing it to make sure everything was going smoothly, for sure.
Have you bladed any men? By the way, if you have any other questions, anybody who's on here, go ahead and send them through now. We'll try to hit them real fast.
I have not bladed any guys. I have been trying, but I haven't had any success with finding any male models that want to be microbladed. So, if you're a guy and you want to be microbladed in Tampa, come and hit up Flirt Wax Bar.
What is life like as a microblading artist?
It's great. Life is awesome. You go to work, it doesn't feel like work because, I was an artist before I started, and I always wanted to find a career using my skills in art, which is really difficult to do, especially in the art field. And this was a way for me to channel that and make a career out of it. So I embraced it 100%. So life is great because I go to work and do what I love to do, and I get to create art. I think of it that way.
What is your schedule like?
So depending on the day and how many touch-ups I have, some days it's 3 full sets of microblading. Some days it's 2 full sets and 2 touch-ups. Some days it's 1 full set and 4 touch-ups. It all depends on how many touch-ups you have in the week. But I stay pretty busy 5 days a week. I'm booked from 10:30 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, 5 days a week. So I am very satisfied.
How much do you charge for touch-ups?
$0. Touch-ups included in the $600. If you want to charge a little bit less and charge for a touch-up, that's a way of going about it. But we really want to see our clients back and see how they heal because everybody's skin is different.
But wait a second, you're referring to the first touch-up, correct?
Oh yeah, the first initial touch-up is included. Yearly
Right.
touch-ups.
Yeah, like after when it
Oh,
comes.
okay. Yeah, yearly touch-ups we charge 250. 6
Okay.
months is 125. So
Mhm.
we don't like to do 6 month touch-ups that much just because it's too frequent. So we always try to wait for a year, but we charge 250 for yearly touch-ups.
Okay. How many models did you do before you became certified?
I believe it was after my 8 models. So I did my 8 models, and they were all within 1 week. And then I started sending the pictures to Claire, and I think after I sent her the pictures of my models, she sent it to Bronco, and he approved it. So I got my certificate. I think it was 3 weeks after I took the course, 3 or 4 weeks.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Very fast. I'm at a salon alone with my skincare and lashes. Do you foresee a problem with this? I'm not sure
What
what that
was
means.
it?
Do you understand that question? I'm at
What
a
was the question?
salon. I'm at a salon and alone with my skincare and lashes. Do you foresee a problem with this? Tamara, can you reiterate your question? I don't think either of us really understand what you're asking exactly.
Hmm.
What's the craziest request you ever got from a client?
I would say that high low. That's the one I always go back to.
Oh,
Was
when somebody
was
had one eyebrow up here and
Yeah,
the
it
other down there.
was, and she wanted me to
Fix
make them
it.
symmetrical. That was the craziest thing that I've done because I did it, and I would
Hmm.
not go back and do it again if I had the opportunity. I would do it completely different. But I've gotten some clients that want some wonky shapes. Um, the thick in the front with the little small tails in the back.
Hmm.
I've gotten requests like that. So there's always crazy requests, but never feel afraid to say no to crazy requests. Don't do anything that you wouldn't feel comfortable doing.
Tamara was referring to she has nobody to lean on. In other words, she's kind of by
Oh, okay.
herself.
Okay, so you do lashes and skincare. Okay, so if you don't have anybody to lean on, lean on it. I assume that means you don't have anybody to lean on that's in the industry with you, but lean
Yeah.
on the people around you, whether they're in the industry or not. Lean on a spouse if you have a spouse. Lean on family members, and really, um,
I suppose she could lean on the community. She could lean on the
yeah, the
if
microblading
she,
community.
certainly if she's a student of ours. I mean, we've got a lot of feedback for her, and she could certainly get feedback from her instructor.
Yeah, for sure. Lean on your instructors first thing, and then lean on everybody else in the community because everybody is there to help you. When you go onto that forum, everybody is interested in seeing you succeed.
Mhm.
Um, Nobody feels any ill intent towards other artists. They all want to see everybody succeed, and they love seeing great work. So always lean on the people that are in the community for sure.
Let's get to Constance's question, which is, did you feel confident even though you didn't have the knowledge of the 11 levels?
So the 11 levels, the night before, I was going through each level, and I did each level a lot. So I had the knowledge that was there of how to do these things, but I wasn't 100% confident. I'm not. There's no way, but I felt confident enough to work on skin because I had already worked on skin at the live course. So I knew that I could do it because I had just done it at the course. So
Hmm.
definitely, when I got home before I did my first model the next day, I ran through every level and made sure that I had it, that I had somewhat of an idea of how to do each level. And before I left the class, I did tell Claire I have 8 models lined up. Can you tell me if I'm on the right track with my practice skins? And she felt that I was definitely on the right track um, to doing a model after that. So I would say I was about 65% confident that I was ready, but I did it. And after I did it, I was 100% confident. So
yeah, your confidence skyrocketed very quickly.
yeah, very quickly.
Awesome. Hey everybody, thanks so much for participating with us. I want to let Brent go because it's been a long day. But Brent, thanks a lot. Really
No
appreciate it.
problem.
The feedback, I'm sure, is very, very helpful for everybody here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you,
All right.
everybody.
All right, so go follow Blading by Brent on Instagram, and you can catch us at on Facebook. We actually just hit 10,000 likes on our Facebook